In 1513, an Ottoman admiral drew a map of the world. And at the bottom of that map is a coastline that, at first glance, looks strangely familiar. Some people claim it's Antarctica. The problem? Antarctica wouldn't be officially encountered by European explorers for another 3 centuries. So what exactly was Piri Reis looking at? Piri Reis was an Ottoman admiral, navigator, and cartographer. In 1513, he created a world map that incorporated information from a number of earlier sources. The surviving portion of that map was discovered centuries later in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace Library. And this is where things get interesting. Piri Reis wasn't simply drawing the world from memory. He was compiling information from earlier charts and maps. Some of his sources appear to have come from Portuguese charts, while other information was associated with Christopher Columbus and the voyages to the Americas. But when researchers look at the southern part of the map, they see something mysterious. A large landmass appears to extend eastward from the coast of South America. And some researchers have argued that this landmass represents Antarctica. If that's true, the implications would be extraordinary, because Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until centuries later. But the claim gets even more incredible. Some supporters argue that the map doesn't simply show Antarctica. They claim it shows the coastline of Antarctica before it was covered by its present-day ice sheet. And if that were actually true, we'd have a completely different mystery. Because who could have mapped an ice-free Antarctica? One possibility proposed over the years is a lost maritime civilization. A civilization capable of traveling enormous distances across the world's oceans, surveying coastlines, and preserving that geographical knowledge long enough for it to eventually reach Piri Reis. It sounds incredible, but there's a major problem. We don't have archaeological evidence for such a civilization. No confirmed ancient ships capable of making such a journey. No known ports. No settlements in Antarctica. No independent ancient map conclusively showing an ice-free Antarctic coastline. So there's another explanation, and it's much less spectacular. 16th century cartographers didn't have satellites, GPS, or accurate measurements of the entire planet. They worked with incomplete information. They copied older maps. They combined different sources. They distorted coastlines. And they sometimes filled unknown regions with geographical assumptions. One of the most important ideas in European geography at the time was Terra Australis, a hypothetical great southern continent that many scholars believed had to exist. And this matters because the mysterious southern landmass on the Piri Reis map may not be Antarctica at all. Some researchers argue that it is actually a distorted representation of the South American coastline, combined with contemporary ideas about Terra Australis. In other words, what looks like Antarctica to a modern viewer may have looked completely different to a 16th century cartographer. And there's another important point. The Piri Reis map is unquestionably real. The map really was created in 1513. Piri Reis really did use earlier geographical sources, and the southern portion really is unusual. But there's a huge difference between saying, this coastline resembles Antarctica, and saying, this proves that an ancient civilization mapped Antarctica without its ice. That second claim requires extraordinary evidence. And so far, we don't have it. So did Piri Reis somehow possess a map of Antarctica centuries before its supposed discovery? Maybe, but the evidence doesn't allow us to confidently say that. The more conventional explanation is that the southern coastline is a distorted combination of South American geography and the 16th century concept of an unknown southern continent. And perhaps that's the real lesson of the Piri Reis map. History isn't just about discovering lost civilizations. Sometimes it's about understanding how people tried to make sense of a world they didn't fully understand. A map can preserve knowledge, but it can also preserve mistakes. And sometimes, centuries later, those mistakes can look like secrets. So the question isn't simply, did Piri Reis map Antarctica? The better question is, how much of the world's early geographical knowledge have we misunderstood? Because somewhere between lost maps, distorted coastlines, forgotten sources, and genuine discoveries, there may still be pieces of history waiting to be understood. Some chains, history breaks. Others, it simply buries. Unchained history.